everyone. Welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, Bryce Simon and I are going to continue our offseason preview series where we go through all of the big decisions facing every NBA team this summer. Today, we're talking about a team that has made a lot of changes already, could make some changes this summer as well. The New Orleans Pelicans, they have number 7 overall pick. They have Zion Williamson. They have Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, a number of really interesting players to dive into, certainly CJ McCollum. But before we do that, shout out to all you guys for subscribing to the channel. We have over 40,000 of you that have come and enjoyed these previews, come to hang out on the channel. We appreciate you all immensely for doing that. Thank you all so much for coming, hanging out, being a piece of the puzzle here. Come hang out, tell a friend, do whatever you can to support the show, like a video, hit the subscribe button. Thank you all so much. Bryce, let's talk about the Pelicans now, because they've hired Joe Dumars. I've gotten, when I ask people around the league, a healthy degree of questioning about this hire, just because Joe Dumars has not done this for a while in terms of running a team. He's been in the league office. He was not very good at the end of the Pistons run. Like, we can just say that, right? Like, it's okay. I'm interested to see how this goes. They obviously bring in Troy Weaver, another person that there's a healthy degree of skepticism about league-wide. I don't know what to make of this right now in terms of where the Pelicans are headed. And we're going to dive into all of it. There are 95 questions we have to answer. But Bryce, when you think about the Pelicans entering the summer, just what is your immediate thought?
Don't trade Trey Murphy III. That is my immediate thought.
Honestly, same. That is anything else I think is fungible on the team.
Sure.
Can't move him.
I will listen to just about anything else. I would prefer they didn't move Herb Jones either. Do not trade Trey Murphy III. And I mean, that dude had an incredible season, and I'm not positive we've seen the ceiling yet. So until you know what the ceiling is and what that means for your team, that dude is not moving unless you just get like a Godfather offer, right? Like, you get something stupid, then sure, listen, you're going to get a Giannis package for Trey Murphy. Then of course, trade Trey Murphy. But until then, keep him. I would keep Herb Jones. I mean, like, Misi is interesting. I like Jordan Hawkins, stuff like that. Anybody else, like, let's have the conversation and see what we think.
And the conversation, unfortunately, is going to start with Zion Williamson. So Zion Williamson was recently accused of rape and domestic violence in a civil suit. That happened, as of the time of this recording last week. This will go up, I think, weekend-ish. So it'll be about a week ago. We're not going to dive into the details on that, but we'll just note the way it impacts their summer, right? And their leadership made a statement today, as of the time that we're recording. According to the New Orleans Times-Picayune, they talked to Joe Dumars. I've had really good conversations with Zion. We've had lunch, dinner, watched playoff games together. We've done it all. I've had some real honest conversations with him, some real direct and honest conversations. We're going to go forward with Zion. He's going to continue to be a focal point here as we go forward. Dumars was advised not to venture into any of the legal issues. Gail Benson, maybe don't just say lawsuits are lawsuits in this circumstance. Obviously, innocent until proven guilty, of course, is a thing that, we live by in the United States. But maybe let's acknowledge the fact here, not the fact that there is an accusation at the very least, and that it is like a serious thing that he is going through. I think that as of the time of this recording and as of the time that we go through this, we have to consider that Zion Williamson is going to be a member of the New Orleans Pelicans. And it's almost not worth discussing potential trades, contract, anything like that.
Yeah. And I hope people have listened to us enough on these type of topics to know where we stand. If something were, until we know the facts and more are presented, we usually keep things, but I think people know where we stand if things were to come to light that show things are true or whatever, and that it's not always great to talk about it until we do know all of them. So I don't want people to think we're just overlooking it. Like I think we both have shown our cards in our hands on how we feel about domestic violence and these type of things. So I wanted to make sure we touched on that real quick.
Yeah, we do have to touch on it. And the other piece of this that's important to note with Zion Williamson in regard to his future, right, is that he has very little money like guaranteed left on his deal at this point. In fact, I believe that there is like no money guaranteed.
I think it's zero, Sam, now. It looks like.
Yeah. So let me see here. Did he play? How many games did he play last year?
It's always a fun question. He played 30 games last year.
So yeah, it became guaranteed if he had played at least 41% or 41 games in the season. So because of that, there is no money guaranteed on Zion Williamson's deal left. They could cut him if they want to. I think somebody would still give up value for Zion, frankly. Probably not right now. And I would imagine that the fact that he's going through this lawsuit is why they are probably keeping him, honestly, is because there just isn't a lot of value. And as gross as it is to talk about it, kind of in those contexts and in this context, this is literally the entirety of the offseason preview at this point, is trying to figure out what they're doing, trying to figure out their decision making. So like, you know, it's gross to talk about, but I think that like in those terms, I mean, I would imagine that they don't think that they can get value for him right now. And they're probably just going to continue down the road with this.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that makes sense. I'm good on the Zion, even if we're just looking from the straight basketball perspective. We talked about this when we did our 24 under 24 and 24, and we had him ranked very high because of the talent.
Yeah.
It's just like, we also talked about how hard it was to rank him because you just never know how many games you're going to get from him. And you also brought up a really interesting point with talking about Zion. You do have to build out your roster in a specific way, right?
Yes.
And so like that makes it interesting as well, because I think we both agree on like, if you are going to move forward with him, you want to put the ball in his hands. Like that is where he is most actualized. And so then like, what else, who fits that, who doesn't? And so like, that's, if Dumars is telling the truth here, like if he actually is like, this is how we're moving forward, then they need to make moves this offseason to actualize his talent. That's a nice thing.
Well, do you know what the crazy thing is? I think that the team kind of works for him now. Like
Trey makes perfect sense for him.
Yeah. You don't have DeJounte next year.
Yeah, sure.
Who took the ball out of his hands and is a player that like, look, that was just a catastrophic trade. Like that was a deal that made no sense at the time. We talked about it then.
Looks worse now because Dyson's
looks
awesome.
Worse now.
And I mean, it's not DeJounte's fault he got hurt, but like it didn't look like it was working even before he got hurt. So
totally. But look, if you wanted to play Zion as like your pseudo point, you have CJ McCollum, you have Trey Murphy, you have Herb Jones to be able to insulate him defensively. And then you have Olynyk that you can run. Like I would venture that Zion, CJ, Trey, Herb, Kelly Olynyk lineups would probably be quite successful on the court next year. If Zion's healthy, and we don't, it's hard to count on him to play games at this point. He's played 30, 70, 29, missed an entire season, 61 and 24. So that's where we're at with the Zion Williamson experience at this point. If I was the Pelicans, I think I would want to end it. Frankly, I would just want to move on from this if I could. And I don't know if they're going to be able to. We'll see where that goes.
I'm with you. Like again, I'm not trying to.
The issue. Yeah, the issue for me, Bryce. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say this. Yeah. The issue for me is like he is just proven unreliable.
Yeah.
At this point, and if you are the number one option on a team, the thing that I think you can't be if you're the franchise centerpiece is unreliable.
Sure.
Off the court, on the court, whatever it is, you can't be unreliable. And that's what it seems like this is going to move into.
Yep. I'm with you. They tried it. I don't think it's worked great. The talent is undeniable. I am comfortable saying I would be ready to get out of the Zion Williamson business in New Orleans and cut my losses and move on. And again, start figuring out how to move forward with the group of Murphy, Jones, Messi, draft pick, etc.
Yep. So here's the other big question here. You and I feel a certain way about like Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. You know, I'm not the biggest Missy guy. I think you like him a little bit more than I do. You know, young guy on a cheap deal, interesting player, right?
Sure.
We don't know yet how this front office that is coming in now feels about these guys, right? Like,
it's a great point.
Do they value, like there was already a report from Kevin O'Connor saying like everybody's on the table basically here. And it'd be fucking crazy to me to move Trey Murphy. I'm sorry. Like it'd be crazy to me to move him. I think it'd be pretty wild to move Herb Jones, honestly. Like he's on such a cheap deal. But here's the thing. If you're going to move into more of a rebuild because you want to end the Zion Williamson experience, because you think CJ McCollum is aging and you probably want to move on from him this summer, potentially as it is, and you're building around Trey Murphy with draft picks and everything long-term again, right? And you're kind of rebuilding because you think the West is so hard, the number 7 overall pick. Like, I would understand in that respect, at least, listening to offers for Herb Jones, who is best on a winning team. Like Herb Jones provides much less value for a team that is rebuilding than he does for a winning team.
Fair. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he's just so good on such a good contract that I don't want to move him.
Yeah.
But it's a good point, because if you go complete rebuild mode, all of a sudden Herb's like maybe your second best player, right? And your second option offensively. And it's just like, that's not where he's best, right? Like he doesn't need to be in that role offensively. He needs to just be able to focus the majority of his attention defensively and then get what he gets offensively created by others. And so because he's on such a good contract, though, I just wonder what his trade value would be. So I understand if they are willing to go full rebuild, like we are tearing this down to the bones outside of Trey Murphy and the number 7 pick. And like, I would keep me like, just because he's on his second year,
sure.
Like he may not be your starting center long-term, but like, even if he ends
up, he might be.
He might be, and even if he ends up being your backup, like I think Kelly Olynyk is an awesome player for a rebuilding team. So like I would keep him around because of that.
Totally.
But I would understand the idea around moving Herb Jones in this specific vision and moving forward. I would listen to it then.
If you're rebuilding, if you're not rebuilding, you should keep him. But like, I don't know. How competitive do you think this team is? Even if Zion's fully healthy next year, how competitive do you think this team is currently constructed?
So that starting lineup right there on the screen, if you're watching over on YouTube, CJ McCollum, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Zion, Messi, and then you have like Olynyk, Hawkins, Alvarado off the bench. Play-in team, right? In the West. I could see them getting into the play-in maybe.
I could see them getting
Zion.
in.
Sam, a healthy Zion, right? We're living in a healthy Zion world. Let's even say healthy Zion world is 60 games. That's a really good basketball player. That's 25, 7 and 5. Trey Murphy went for 20 on, 25 and 3.5.
Yeah.
Herb Jones is an all defense level player. CJ can still give you 20 healthy. That's a play-in team, I think, still.
Do they guard anybody?
Herb does.
One of them does. Trey is not like terrible on defense, but he's neutral, not like
right? He's
like
a little better than neutral. A little better than
neutral to slightly above neutral, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, Alvarado like works hard on defense, but I don't know, like CJ, Zion, Messi, like that doesn't go super well to me as a starting group.
And here's what's hard. If you started asking me to name who they're going to beat out in the West, like I'm going to struggle. Like that's
my bigger thing.
Yeah. This is where like my theory is flawed is I think the Blazers are going to be better. I think.
Well, so let's just do it, right?
Okay, sure.
Oklahoma City, Denver, Minnesota. That's 3 in the Northwest Division, right?
Yeah. No.
Lakers, Clippers, Warriors.
Barring injury,
6?
no. Correct.
Rockets, Grizzlies, San Antonio, I think probably Dallas, if we're not acknowledging injuries there, right?
Gosh dang. Yeah. So
that's 11.
Utah's
and then Portland, and then like whatever Phoenix does, like whatever Sacramento does, it gets hairy.
You're right. Injury luck in their favor gets them into the play-in, I think is where I'm comfortable. Yes. Where they stay healthy, a couple other teams don't. They're still better than the Jazz. You know what? Like that gets them in, but like in my world, the odds are against me though, right? Because Zion is probably going to be injured. And I mean, I've even had people bring this up to me, like Trey has missed time, you know, like he played 53 this year, 57 the year before, 62 as a rookie. He did have 79 his second year. Like the odds are not in my favor in this world. So,
yeah. So to me, I'm probably rebuilding this team.
Yep.
If I was Joe Dumars and I had this job, I'm rebuilding this team. I'm looking at guys, I think like Herb Jones and certainly CJ McCollum and seeing what's out there.
Yeah.
And McCollum is maybe where we can start. Do you think there's a team that could like really use CJ McCollum?
I still like CJ McCollum, and I think CJ McCollum could still be really good as a third guard role. Like if all of a sudden you insert him into that like sixth man, he's your third guard in the rotation, especially if you have some defenders either with those other two guards or on the wing, or, you know, a big that really protects the rim behind him and insulates that. I love him. I think you just have to find the right team. And at the end of the day, Sam, he's still at $30 million. Even though it's a 1-year deal, it's still at $30.5 million for CJ.
That's the thing.
I think that's where it gets tricky for him.
These guys on like big money are still very difficult to move. And I'm just not sure where the landing spot is for CJ.
Like Orlando's like always the team we bring up in this scenario, right? With this type of player, but it's just a 1-year rental for them. So would they even be in the market for that?
Like if they really wanted to get off the KCP deal, which like I don't think we have any indication that they necessarily feel that way, but he didn't play up to the $22 million a year standard, right? Yeah. Like he was okay at times. Would they do like KCP in number 25 for CJ McCollum?
Yeah.
And is that something you would do if, like, I think I would do that if I was New Orleans?
If I'm going down this road, I mean, again, not knowing what the entire market is going to be, but for a 34-year-old, $30 million CJ McCollum, who's probably a liability defensively, yeah, probably like that. Are you getting much better than that?
I don't think you would do better than that. And honestly, if I'm the Magic, I don't even know if I do that at this point.
If I'm Orlando, I don't like it because it's a 1-year rental, and I don't know that I'm winning the championship next year by adding CJ. Like some of the other names we've brought up there, like Simons, Monk, names like that. Those are long-term plays that are going to stay there with the timeline. CJ just doesn't make sense on that timeline.
What if you did like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Jet Howard, and 3 second rounders? So you have like number 46 this year. You have, I think it's like Detroit or Milwaukee's second rounder next year. And like another second rounder somewhere. Like, could you do something like that?
Yeah. Again, like I hate that for New Orleans in terms of like, is that the best you can do? I think Orlando, that's probably better value, right? Because you feel like, I mean, offensively, CJ is going to be a major upgrade on KCP, right?
Yes.
The thing is Jamal going to play him? You know, is CJ bad enough defensively that Jamal just won't even let him play 28 minutes a night off the bench, even if they do need the scoring? But I mean, from Orlando, I think we know what I feel like Jet Howard's always catching strays on this podcast. That's fine. It's be interesting for New Orleans to try the Jet Howard Oh my gosh. What's wrong?
Reclamation.
Goodness. I got Herb Jones' name right tonight, but I can't say reclamation. Reclamation project, some seconds. Sorry, Herb. I promise. I very much enjoy you as a basketball player.
Amazing.
I think you're really good. That sucks if that's CJ's best value though, but I don't know that it's wrong, Sam, because he's on 30 million.
Yeah. It's just like, what team is going to take on 30 for him? Right.
Dallas can't, did they even have the money to get there in that situation?
I mean, they do. Yeah. Cause you could do PJ and like Caleb Martin.
Okay.
Like you can figure out a way to make that work. Honestly, it's not crazy with Dallas. Like, so the money would be like, I think PJ might have more value than this is the thing. Like PJ, I think
PG's almost
has
too
more
good
value
for this trade idea, right? Like we've had PJ in other trades where I think it made sense.
But he's probably the one that has to move there financially.
Yeah.
And then like, I think even PJ and Caleb doesn't get you there money wise. So yeah, no, I don't think that works, to be honest. I think you're right that CJ, I'm sorry, does not necessarily work there. Yeah. Like the Suns can't really do this, right?
The Nuggets,
they can't aggregate.
There's no way the Nuggets get there, right? Money wise, they just don't have the contracts to get there.
I mean, like like maybe I guess in like a Durant deal, if they wanted to like stay tight and like wanted to have like a third team and like that's where it gets like really convoluted in a way. Like maybe the Suns go for it as like a stopgap kind of thing, but like that's just kind of not giving the Suns a lot of credit as a front office. I feel like is kind of what we're doing there.
Be a fun offseason
like
coming soon.
Yeah, the Hornets, like, could they? I think they probably want more of like a defender between LaMelo and Brandon, right?
And we also think they're probably going to draft that archetype of player. So, I mean, again, I if I'm the Hornets, like, I'm just not giving up any sort of asset to, and that's, so here's the other thing with CJ is if the Pelicans are going rebuild and they can't get any sort of real value for CJ, there's a point. I'm interested if you agree with me here. Is there not a point where just keeping CJ on the team to make it a competent basketball team for the young players to play with is actually more valuable than trading him for pennies on the dollar when you're going to get off the money in the offseason anyway? Like, there's a point where that becomes true, right?
It's actually funny that you're going to say that, because what I was going to say is like, is there like a CJ for John Collins in a second round pick move where it's like, okay, let's have like a real adult competent guard around in Utah to just help those guys? Because that's what they were missing last year. It felt like to me was like, let's have a vet in here that can like really help. And like, I think CJ would help out Collier. I think he'd help out, some of their younger guys. And like, honestly, I think it would be easier maybe to trade CJ at the deadline than it would be to trade John Collins. So like maybe
I just think if I'm Norland, like if I'm only getting a second round pick for CJ, I think I just keep him on my team. And I'm just like, hey, he's good. Because I've watched it for multiple years where just not having floor spacing, not having gravity, you don't get to properly evaluate young players. So if CJ McCollum on my team allows me to properly evaluate, because you know what that does? It takes a little bit off Trey Murphy, where it's not like, hey, you're the only good offensive player on our team, so we're going to throw 3 defenders at you and your efficiency is going to crater. At least CJ has gravity where Trey can be the number 1 option, but you have a legit dude playing alongside him. And whoever the number 7 pick isn't thrust into a role he's not ready for, and, et cetera. So again, I think I'm in that mindset. If I can't get more, like if I'm not getting multiple seconds or a young player that I really believe in, that I think is really, truly worth a reclamation project, then I'll just keep CJ and try it again at the deadline. And if I don't like it at the deadline, I mean, the deadline you would probably then definitely want to, right? Like what's the last 20 games of a tank season, essentially? You definitely want to try to give it a second or something at that point.
Well, and that's where like injuries can help, right? Like, so like the Pistons are a team we've brought up with CJ, right?
Yep.
Like the Pistons don't really have a mechanism right now to get CJ. Like it doesn't work, right? Like you'd have to give up like either Isaiah Stewart or Tobias Harris. Like I don't think that makes them a better team to do that, right? Especially with Jaden coming back. But, if a guard goes down and is injured there or somewhere else, CJ might become a little bit more of an option, right? So I think you're right about this for what it's worth.
I like that. I like that more depending on his market, Sam, right? Like if there is a bigger market for him than what I think right now or what we're coming up with, I would like if I could get a first round pick, then I'd move him. But if not, I'm going to hold him and then I'll move him. And also for the sake of CJ, right? Like CJ probably doesn't want to spend the whole year quote unquote
bouncing around.
Losing on the Pelicans and going from this team to that. Like keep me here, let me be a vet and then trade me at the deadline to theoretically a contender or a playoff team of some sort. And then, play out my season that way.
I think the only one that makes sense is if Orlando misses out on like other targets. Sure. Like that's the only one that I can see really working. Herb Jones, like I think that's like a real value player.
That's a massive market, right? If they made him available, that's a massive. That's one of the best 5 contracts in the NBA.
Yeah, I can't remember where we had him, but it was certainly in the top 7. Yeah. I mean, he's just an outstanding player is the thing. Like if you look at what he has left on his contract, it's, 13.9 million this season, 14.9 million the next season. He's either extension eligible this summer or next summer. I can't remember based on the deal that they did because I forget how they structured that deal. Massive market where you can look across the board and say like, oh, the Cavs could really use that guy. Oh, the Celtics could really, like the Knicks, they definitely could use that guy. Can you imagine if the Pacers had him? Like he fits the Magic's philosophy perfectly. Oklahoma City, oh my God.
Or like you could just add him
like perfectly. Houston, like, can you imagine Ime with him? The Lakers desperately need a perimeter defender. The Nuggets, like, this is one of the guys that they can afford. The Clippers, oh my God, he has Clipper DNA. Like the Timberwolves, they could use another monster next to Jaden. Like, it's just every team is the thing for Herb Jones. That's what makes him so valuable. And that's why it would be like a real bidding war on the market.
Because his number actually comes in below the non-tax MLE also. So I think, right? Yeah. So a team could even use their trade exception to break. Yeah. Oh, this market is massive.
It's enormous.
Okay. Gosh dang. I hate this so much. This might actually be somewhat smart for, this is where the real life side of things is harder than us just talking about it. Cause on NBA 2K25, I would shop the heck out of Herb Jones to see what the market is. And if I could get the monster deal that I think maybe could come available, then I would do it. But you can't just shop him, not like, and the market doesn't materialize the way you think. And like, oh no, we're just kidding. We'll bring you back. Because there's real humans involved in real life. So I can understand why it'd be enticing though. I've warmed up to this solely because I think you're right in terms of what it may return. So
the team that makes the most sense here to me, if you're looking at look, the Philly thing is look, if we'll talk about number 7, if the Pelicans love a certain player without saying a certain player, right? Like if they love a certain player, bounce up to Philly at number 3. Sure. Like you better believe that guy's an all-star though. If you're moving Herb Jones and number 7 for number 3,
you better be right.
And you better be right. That's the thing. I wouldn't do that. I want to be clear to Pelicans fans. Like I would not move number 7 and Herb Jones to get number 3.
That's not the trade. To be clear, that is not the trade I am talking about at all.
I am not Joe Dumars, and I don't think that we know how Joe Dumars views any of this is the thing. So that's what makes it hard to have this conversation. The team that immediately stands out to me for Herb Jones is the Grizzlies, actually. because they have
the defense.
They will have their. That's right. They will have their non-taxpayer MLE. The Pelicans have like a bunch of weird, like low-level trade exceptions as well, where like if the Grizzlies wanted to put Herb Jones into their non-taxpayer and the Pelicans wanted like a certain player back, right? If they wanted like, I don't know if they'd give up Jalen Wells, but if they wanted GG Jackson, like say it was like GG Jackson, John Concher, and at least one first, maybe two firsts, right? Whatever the number is, I'm not like getting specific with like an offer here or anything. Or if it's
they have the trade exceptions just to take it for those.
Yeah, they do. So the Pelicans have, just looking at their trade exceptions here.
We have it right there. Yeah.
It's yellow. They have a 13 million for Brandon Ingram. They have a 9.9 million, and I think they have a smaller one as well, if I remember correctly. So like you can take back, deals that make this work financially in some way. The Grizzlies are, slightly over the cap. Their salary situation is not onerous yet because of the Jaren Jackson thing, assuming they stay. So like if they go under the cap, it doesn't quite work this way. And I guess we are kind of assuming they go under the cap to do the Jaren deal. So maybe it doesn't quite work. Maybe they would have to find matching between like Concher and it'd have to be Concher and one of their guys, I guess. Like I think that actually Concher and GG Jackson just like works for Herb Jones, now that I think about it, in terms of where they are financially. Yeah. So you don't even need the trade exceptions. I made that way more complicated than it had to be because of course I did. But yeah, I just mean that financially, not in terms of what the actual offer would be. But yeah, I think the Grizzlies make a lot of sense because you build like just a monster defense around Ja Morant. Your starting lineup then is like Morant, Bane, Herb Jones, Jaren Jackson, Zach Edey.
Yeah.
You can go small with like Brandon Clark and Jaren Jackson with Herb Jones and Desmond Bane, and you can have monster defenders out there. You can go like, even smaller if you wanted to with Herb at the 4, depending on who the 4 on the other team is defensively, and get like another ball handler out there. You could get Jalen Wells out there if you want to. Like he's another chess piece for them to like get the most out of what they could potentially get the most out of. And they have the young guys that could be interesting to New Orleans too.
Yeah, I like it.
So
that's a good name, because we talked all year about the point of attack defense that team lacked. As much as we like Jalen Wells and were impressed with his rookie season. Yeah,
so that's a good. Like, imagine if it was like Jalen Wells in a first rounder for Herb Jones. Like you basically just flip Jalen Wells. I don't even know if the Grizzlies would do that, but like, you flip the number 39 overall pick and a future first for an all defense guy. Like that's pretty freaking good asset management from the Grizzlies, right? So, yeah. No, and again, like I'm just totally spitballing here. I'm not even like trying to come up with an offer, but that's the team that makes a lot of sense to me. But again, massive market for Herb Jones, massive market for number 7 too. So like guys that I think the Pelicans will look. Go ahead,
real quick. Pelicans fans should rest easy, because the last time Troy Weaver in his first year had the number 7 overall draft pick, it went real well.
Bryce, why would you do that to the people?
Sorry.
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Dad jokes. Listen, we've done a lot of these. I like to have fun with them every once in a while. I apologize, Pelicans fans.
Don't you put that evil on me.
2020, Killian Hayes, first round, pick 7, war number 7. And that is.
And by the way, they traded a future first that they're finally sending out this draft.
Yeah.
That was 5 years ago.
Not for Killian. That was for Isaiah Stewart, but yes.
Yeah. And Isaiah's a good player. So like it didn't even kill them, but the flexibility was limited for multiple years. And look,
talked about consistently.
Joe Dumars is not Troy Weaver, even though Troy Weaver is involved. Hopefully he does not make those decisions.
Yeah.
Number 7, like guys that I expect they will look at number 7. I do not expect that VJ Edgecombe will be available. I think basically everybody else outside of Cooper and Dillon would be there, or like have a theoretical chance to get there. Con Knipple, Trey Johnson, Ace Bailey, Kasparis, Jeremiah Fears certainly I think would be on the board. I guess Malawach, like they just took a center last year, but if like, totally different front office, so you just never know how they feel about it, right? I mean, look, like Ace Bailey is like a name here to me for them. He just ticks a lot of boxes for like what Troy Weaver and Joe Dumars have valued in the past. Like when I talk to people for front offices, like without knowing what the Pelicans are doing. So don't aggregate this, right? This is just like, people that I'm talking to speculating on what the Pelicans might be looking at, right? Like they bring up that Ace Bailey ticks a lot of the boxes for like what the Pelicans might value, basically. And like from an upside perspective, from, a positional just like kind of across the board. So I do wonder if they are a trade up threat. Like I think that that's possible. I also wonder if like Ace Bailey could fall to 7. Like I don't think that's impossible either. It's not crazy to me that he could fall to 7. I think that 6 would get a little bit hairy. The Wizards, could certainly, the Will Dawkins led evaluation process, like ticks boxes for them in terms of like big wing positional size, athleticism, can certainly shoot it at the very least. Like decision making is a question and defense is a question, but there are boxes that he ticks there at the very least. Maybe you could try and move up to 5. Maybe you could try to move up to 4 or 3 or something and get the guy you want. Or maybe you could stay at home and get Jeremiah Fears at 7. Like you could stay at home and get, like maybe Con Knipple falls to 7. Like, God, that'd be, I mean, maybe he does. Like people aren't maybe as high on Con as I am, but yeah. Any names there stand out for you, I guess, is where I'm at.
I mean, my thought as you talked through it was I would just stay home and let whoever falls to me fall to me. And
I agree.
I mean, and for me, it's very, very simple. I have Cooper in a tier. I have Dillon in the next tier. And then I have essentially, like, there are players I obviously value more, but my next tier is 6 or 7 players. And again, I'm not saying that some of them don't have more upside or like I have a ranking within that tier, but I would feel comfortable just going one of Ace Bailey, Trey Johnson, Kasparis, VJ, Con, Carter Bryant is going to fall to me. And, I'm going to take whichever one of those guys is left. I think actually 2 of those guys would be left. So I'm going to have a choice between 2 of them. I'm going to feel comfortable waiting for that. And whoever it is, I'll take and I'll move on and feel good about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I would do. So like here is the other thing though. Actually, now that I say this, like, I don't know if that's what I would do. I have 6 guys in that tier. Like I have 6 guys, and then I have Kasparis, who's like in the middle of the tier. So maybe I would like, I think I would feel a little bit more comfortable with Kasparis at 7 than some people do, but like I have really like 6.5 guys for me in a tier. If we think the Pelicans also have Jeremiah Fears in that tier, which some teams do, and they need a point guard, right? Maybe they have Kasparis in that tier. I do think I agree with you that I would stay. If you have a certain number of guys in that tier where you think they're all pretty close to equal, I think that you just stay at home and pick.
Yep.
Like you're not getting number 2, you're not getting number 1 in all likelihood. The final thing. So let's say here, if we were making a board for the Pelicans,
mm-hmm.
I think our board would probably look. Yeah, like what would yours look like? I'll make you answer the hard question.
I mean, I still have Ace the highest on my board, so like we're gonna differ there. So like I would go Ace, Trey, VJ, Con, Carter, Kasparis, something like that.
I think that I would go. Oh, that's hard. They're a hard team, honestly. They're a very difficult team.
My gut right now, without completely workshopping it, in this scenario we've played out, especially in one where Herb stays, I kind of like Trey. And like the idea of Trey Johnson and Trey Murphy and the offensive firepower that has with Herb Jones anchoring the perimeter defense, I find
with
myself...
Zion.
Well, I was taking Zion out. Like, we're rebuilding.
Yeah, but like, again, based off of, the statements of the front office and owner, like,
we're not doing that. Okay. Yeah,
we're probably not doing that, right?
We're not living in our rebuild world anymore. My bad.
But like we sort of are and we sort of aren't. You know what that's what makes this so hard is that, I don't know that they know what world they're living in yet, because like, are they keeping Zion for now? Are they keeping him long term? Like, I don't know yet. So,
because the thing is, in the world where Zion isn't a long-term piece, not necessarily for us, but I could see them talking themselves into Jeremiah Fears, right? Because if Zion's saying we don't think they should necessarily go value a primary creator at number 7, but in a world without him, I would at least understand the idea of taking a swing on a primary creator.
Totally.
And so, that's why it is tough. I find myself gravitating towards Trey here for some reason. We like VJ makes sense. I think Con would make a lot of sense, like all of those. But yeah, I think I think I said Ace, Trey, VJ, Con, Carter, Casparis. I think I would stand there.
I don't think VJ gets here. VJ would probably be my top guy for them. Yeah. I think I would go Trey, Con, Ace. If you believe in Ace, like I'm all for it. It's just probably not for me at the end of the day, but like I have no issues with anybody that believes in Ace. It's totally fine. That'd probably be my group. Yeah. Okay. That'd probably be my group, I think.
Cool with it.
And then, like, I guess if none of those guys got there, it'd probably be Casparis to me.
Sure.
I think that's kind of where it is. Like, that group of players right around there to me. I just, my worry with the Pelicans is I don't know where we're going at this point with them. And if I was a Pelicans fan, I think that's where I would be most worried right now, is it just feels like a very complex situation to navigate.
Yeah. I mean, that's what always with the new front office, you just don't know who they're going to value and who they don't. You may think you have some really good players, and if they don't value that archetype or that's not what their vision is, then who knows? Say this all the time. Whenever it wasn't their draft pick, it's a lot easier for them to move on. Right. And so I think that's where it makes it real interesting, along with a lot of the other things we talked about, the Zion situation / contract, all of that. Yeah. Again, I will end with what I started with. Do not trade Trey Murphy.
That's really the one rule here. Do not trade Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy is a fantastic basketball player. Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky, the Motor City Hoops Substack, Pistons Pulse Podcast, otherwise Game Theory Podcast right here with Sam Vecenie. Thank you all so much for liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting, your positive reviews and comments and DMs. We really appreciate it. If you're enjoying it, I bet you have a friend that will enjoy it. Let them know so we can continue to grow.
We appreciate you guys immensely for subscribing, for liking the videos. Thank you all for hanging out with us. We will be back tomorrow with another off-season preview. Go subscribe to The Athletic. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you all for listening. Until next time, we'll talk soon.